Let's get ready for Monday Mortgage Minute with your hosts, Tom McNamara and Bruce Woodburn.
And there we are,
We
November
are.
the 24th, my friend. This is a great week. Thanksgiving, my all-time favorite holiday. I like it. I love it. You know, I think it's great getting together with family, but there's no pressure for gifts. And did I get somebody and they got me something and I didn't get them anything? And it's just come on over. Let's eat, drink, and be merry. That's what it's all about
Absolutely.
for me.
Absolutely. Hey, I got a bonus. I got 2 Thanksgivings this year because my mom's not going to be able to make our Thanksgiving. So we had a nice little one this past weekend. I'm already stuffed with turkey.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, listen, you know what we're dealing with right now. I want to give everybody a little bit of hope because we're watching the market, and as of Thursday, we've improved about 50 basis points on the bond market. 50 basis points is pretty darn significant. Now we're still about 25 basis points from hitting that peak of where we were on October the 28th, the day before the Fed did the Fed cut, and then the bottom fell out from everything after that Fed cut. So now we've almost come back to that level. All right. So we're almost back to that level. Things are moving in the right direction, but
Good.
there is a tug of war between the bond market and inflation. And
Mhm.
keep in mind, inflation erodes the bond market. And if the bond market is eroded, interest rates go up. So on October 29th, when Powell made his announcement that, yeah, we're going to cut rates a quarter of point, but the December cut is a foregone conclusion. We don't think that's going to happen. We definitely don't know if it is. We'll let you know when the time comes. And then that's when the bottom dropped out and bonds just lost all of their strength. They are concerned about inflation, and it is a legitimate concern because if inflation erodes the bond market, you have to remember if they drop interest rates low enough, then it will do its job. And that job is it will stimulate the economy.
Right.
But when it stimulates the economy and prices start to go up because more people are buying products in the market, then that counteracts everything that we've done. So it's really just a tug of war.
It
Right?
absolutely is. It absolutely is. And I think it's going to be that way for a while I think we're going to be relatively stagnant, which ultimately might be good if we stay in the 6% range and not go too high. We don't go into the 7s and 8s and we don't go down into the 4s and
I think if we could settle at 5 3/4, everybody would be
sure,
happy
five
at
and
the
three
end of the day.
quarters, 6, somewhere in that area. If we just kind of settle there and just kind of fight back and forth on it, I think that'll be great. But everybody has to kind of feel like, okay, it's not going to get any better than this because I still see people clamoring for 3 and 4% rates
Well, it's
just
not going to
because
get
they
there.
want to.
If you are waiting for that to happen, you will never do anything. I can
Agreed.
just tell you, it would take a catastrophe for us to have that. And that happened during COVID when the government thought they had to stimulate the market. And if they would have left it well enough alone, rates would have been 4 3/4 instead of 2 3/4 and 3. That have been 4 3/4, maybe 5. And then we wouldn't have had that down cycle that we've had. Everything would have stayed even. But
Mhm.
they thought, oh my God, we're in a pandemic. We got to stimulate the market to keep things going. And it did its job, but we paid for it afterwards.
Oh, that, yeah. I just thought about that as you said that because they stimulated it from both sides, right? They lowered interest rates down to virtually free.
Zero.
And at the same time, they printed trillions of dollars and gave it away. Right.
Yeah.
So, they lit the match and then they threw gasoline on it.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
yeah.
100%. But there is some great advantages because interest rates have improved quite a bit. And you can still get an FHA loan in the 5s. You can get a VA loan in the 5s. You can get a conventional loan in the low 6s if you got good credit scores. And we're seeing sellers working with buyers on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing that there is inventory. There's not an abundance, but there's more inventory. The amount of inventory leads it slightly, in my opinion, toward a buyer's market. Even though the numbers don't add up to a buyer's market, the behavior is a buyer's market. So
In some areas,
granted, I agree. You're not going to go into Lake Nona or Winter Park
right.
or, one of those higher end communities and get everything you want unless you have a desperate seller. But
Mhm.
your average, and the thing is that I'm seeing it kind of in the middle of the road. That's where you're getting it. You get too high, the sellers don't need to do it. You get too low, you got investors that are competing against you,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
right? So, but I think that if you are considering buying a home, if it's something that you've been sitting on the fence with, or you've got clients and you're sitting on the fence, I guarantee you, if you make application today, I could have you into a house before New Year's Day.
Absolutely.
And we'll
Absolutely.
get you into a house right now.
We
So
can definitely do that. There's a lot of really nice houses in the 250 to 450 range, depending on what your budget is, that, the sellers have been on the market for 30, 60, 90 days. They're going to bend on either price or concessions or fixing stuff, whatever it is that you need. And I mean, again, that's my experience right now with working with buyers, is that we're getting 90% of what we want.
I was visiting a builders. I visited several of their communities on Friday. They're a smaller builder called Hartizen Homes, but they've got 7 or 8 communities within Central Florida. And I really like their product. They got some really nice townhomes in that Eustis area right there, which is
Yeah.
not too far out, but just far enough out. And they're running in the mid 200s, and they're beautiful homes,
Wow.
gorgeous, gorgeous homes. And a lot of them have garages. So I think they all have garages. So
Okay.
you get better than a condo type thing, right? It's a townhome. You actually own it, and you have a garage, and you can have a brand new, beautiful home, and they'll pay your closing costs when you use our services. So if you're looking for affordability, maybe you want to step up, maybe you can't get that $450,000 home right now. We can get you into something, and we
Yeah.
can get you into something before New Year's. And I think that's smart. There's no such thing as a rich renter, you know.
I know. I know. You're absolutely right. Well, there's really rich renters like Grant Cardone, but for the most part, the average
Yeah,
person
only
renter.
he owns $1 billion worth of real estate, but he's a
Exactly.
renter, right?
Exactly. That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
same with Elon Musk, okay? We can
Yep.
pick 2 people out of the whole world, and they're the only rich renters,
For sure. For sure. And they still own a ton of real estate.
and they
But
still own a ton of real estate.
yeah, yeah. So, we were talking last week and over the weekend about home affordability, right? So I just
Yes.
did a big video on my regular YouTube channel about it, and I had to do a lot of research to dig into it. And man, it is such a problem. It is
Yes,
such a problem.
it
The
really
builders,
is.
well, the builders can't build a product cheap enough. Obviously, that one builder you just mentioned is able to do it by townhouses, which is great.
Townhomes, that's the only way they could do it.
In a lot of areas of the country, and even if somebody can't live in Eustis, if they need to live, closer to downtown or whatever, it's just really tough to build single family homes, under 250 and actually turn a profit, right? And then the problem comes with, if the government gives them a subsidy, are they just going to raise the prices, right? And
And you have to remember then, Tom, you've got situations now where you've got buyers that want to buy, but you've got sellers that are or builders that can't build without these impact fees and so forth.
oh yeah, the
So
impact,
there's
right?
tons of fees being piled on to them. And yet you look at the county and the city and you go, well, what do you expect? I got to get a fire department over there. I got to get a police department over there. I've got to have sewage, and we got to have enough room for the schools and so forth and so
Roads.
on.
Yep. Yeah. All that stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's, obviously we understand what impact fees are for and how they benefit the community, but at the same time, they're strangleholding building new inventory, right? It's just making it really tough. I mean, and we talked about there's lots of ideas for solutions out there. We talked about next gen homes where it's not really like a duplex, but it is like a 2-person or a 2-family home, if you will.
Yep.
Generally designed for either somebody that's older, mom and dad are going to live with you, but they don't need a big place. So they just have a little bedroom, small kitchen, small living room, and a bathroom, right?
Well, more families need to live together for affordability these days.
On the flip side, you have young kids, maybe you have that kid that's going to college, and rather than I'm getting ready to get my daughter, actually, she's already got it, an apartment. It's going to cost me $1,000 a month for her to live in an apartment. And whereas you could just do that separately inside the house, right? Have them be independent without being completely independent.
Provided that college is nearby, but
well, that's a different
can't
story.
do
Right?
that if you're going, shipping them across the state.
Yeah. She's going down to, she's actually in the Disney College program, which is kind of
Wow,
cool.
excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. So
So,
it makes it challenging for the builders to do it. It makes
mhm.
it challenging for the city and the counties to, not charge those fees. I don't know what we're going to do to be able to combat that issue for affordability. I don't know what the answer is going to be.
I don't think there's one answer. I think there's a lot of answers, right? So, there's a thing I'm reading here, the American Homeownership Opportunity Act of 2024. And, it's basically a subsidy for builders to build under 1,200 square foot homes, right? So, because that's where the sweet spot is. If you can get it under 1,200 square foot, it can be affordable. The problem is they can't build it and make money because the land costs too much, development costs too much, impact fees, all those things we talked about. So if the federal government can soften that blow a little bit, maybe we can get a little bit more inventory in that range. And then we talked about places like DeLand. I know Longwood did this a long time ago, but DeLand just opened up zoning for tiny homes, where you could take a large parcel of land and subdivide it, put tiny homes on it, and sell off the tiny homes individually, right?
I think that would be amazing if you can own your land and have it. And I don't know about like you and I talked about this earlier, because my perception of a tiny home is you dragged it out on a trailer and you lived
Yeah.
over top of your kitchen in a little loft, right? But now they're making them more like modular type homes. They've got a little bit more square footage.
That, and they meet all the hurricane code requirements, right?
Right.
So, for here, obviously in Florida, that's an important thing. So yeah, they're not mobile tiny homes, although they do make those.
They bring them out on a trailer and they drop them off on a slab and hook up your plumbing and your electrical, and away you
But the
go.
thing is, you can get those completely installed for, 100, 110 grand, right? And so then you just have, and that's installed with everything hooked up, right? So then the
Right.
only thing you need is the land and some development, which, if you can do it cheap enough and get them packed in there tight enough, you could actually create a nice.
Therein lies the problem, because now I got to put a septic system in if I can't get sewer. Well, that's going to cost 20 grand,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
Then you got to maybe air on. Well, that's going to cost me another, what, 8 grand?
Well,
Well,
that's where you have to be able to get city water and sewer in there.
yeah.
But that's where impact fees come in, and then you're paying
And
that.
then you got the impact fees,
Yep,
right?
yep. Hey,
A
we're right back.
double-edged sword. It's hard to beat. We're trying to solve problems here. I don't know how far along we've gotten, but I will tell you this. It's Thanksgiving. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Great time to spend with the family. Reach out to somebody you hadn't talked to in a while, maybe an estranged family member. Ty, then just go ahead and bring it back together. Be the better person. Also, we're looking at ways we can help more people combat affordability. So if you truly have, yourself or maybe an adult child or grandchild that you'd like to see become a homeowner, give us a call. We've got all kinds of ways we can help you. We have 0 down payment loans. We can show you how to do a gift of equity or a gift, and we can help you help your family become homeowners. Because as things go on, I can guarantee you prices are not going to go down. You can't say inflation out of this side of your mouth and say cheaper houses on this side of your mouth. It doesn't work that way.
That's right.
So prices, and listen, folks, houses have been stable, more stable for the longest period of time than I can remember in my entire career. Can you remember 3 years where we've had virtually a flat market? I don't remember when that has ever happened, not in my career. So something's going to break, and it's going to be interest rates will drop slightly, the market will jump in, houses will start going up. But when they start going up, that first time home buyer, they are going to be knocked out, because as soon as those interest rates rise, sellers aren't going to want to pay closing costs because they're going to have more buyers sitting
Yep,
on the front door.
that's
They're
right.
not going to pay, they're not going to do repairs, they're not going to do any of it. So now is the opportune time for the middle of the road market, not the low end, not the high end, middle of the road. You can cut a deal right now. If you want somebody to negotiate that deal, call Tom McNamara. You want somebody to
Absolutely.
help you with your mortgage, call Bruce Woodburn. There's your answer. Happy Thanksgiving. Have a great week.
You as well. Happy Thanksgiving, brother.